This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. There are radicals among us. Curt Schilling, the former Boston Red Sox pitcher, the guy who couldn't get inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame after 10 ballots or something, which I think is the maximum. I don't know how it works, but I think he exceeded the number of ballots, never got to 75% of the vote, and then he's just done. He's not in. He's a bigot. He has shown support or advocacy for the lynching of journalists. He was just a stone cold psycho during COVID about lockdowns and wearing masks. These idiots, these snowflakes, these babies, these children whining about, they're taking away my personal liberty because of a mask, are now the same ones who are invoking violent language about pulling the trigger, starting a violent revolution against the United States. And it seems predicated, among many things, but because of the prosecution for his crimes, Donald Trump. Curt Schilling was on Fox News with Jesse Waters, another just vile representation. If you thought Bill O'Reilly was bad, this is a dumber, lacking talent Bill O'Reilly that Fox News has just rocketed to prominence. Anyway, Curt Schilling was on with him. I'm backtracking here. Curt Schilling was on with him and said some insane things that only got pushed back at the very end of the statement. Violent rhetoric about pulling the trigger. Hopefully someone somewhere will pull the trigger and get this revolution kicked off. Watch this.
But it's a sad day. And the problem is, Jesse, if you look at, I love coming on this show. I love talking to you. I love what you've done, what you're doing in your voice. But the fact of the matter is, I'm tired of listening to Jim Jordan and Matt Getz and Dan Crenshaw and all these people talk. That's all they're doing. They're talking. We're up against a side and a force that doesn't play by the rules, refuses to play by the rules, just look no further than the unconstitutional legal thing going with former President Trump. And we're not doing anything about it. We're talking about it, and we get excited and we get emotional. That's it. They break the law. They do the things they need to do to ensure their agenda is driven forward. And we're watching them gut our nation from the inside out. And I don't know where the rubber's going to meet the road because, it's true sacrifice. You look at the young men that signed the Constitution and all the things that they sacrificed everything to come out from under a tyrannical government. And then eventually at some point there was a man at Concord who decided he was going to pull the trigger. And I feel like we're getting back to a point where somebody's going to have to pull a trigger because everything we hold dear, everything this country was founded on is being just dragged through the mud and mocked and made fun of. This country was founded on godly principles. No matter how offensive that is to the left, it's true.
Well, I'm going to assume that you mean pull the trigger metaphorically.
Absolutely. Well, no, I mean, it doesn't matter if I say metaphorically because they're going to run with that quote no matter how I put it. I could have phrased it in any possible way saying stand up and fight and blah, blah, blah. And I would be inciting a riot while Maxine Waters says, get in their face and
no,
beat
I
the hell out of them
understand. And I've
publicly.
said this to Jim Jordan. I've said this to these congressmen. They throw a subpoena around. They fire off a really bold letter. Gotcha. Republicans need to go on the warpath. And that means they got to use every tool necessary. They got to do what's being done to them. Because that's the only way this is going to stop.
Now, of course, it's almost legally obligated. It's a legal obligation of Fox News at this point because of all of the troubles that they've had for Jesse Waters to perk back and say, "Ooh, you mean metaphorically, right? Of course, metaphorically." I'm sure someone was chirping in his ear from the producer's room to, hey, you got to push back on this. We don't need another lawsuit. Imagine going on national television in these United States after the insurrection that we witnessed that took the lives of several people. The armed, violent attempt to overthrow the United States government by extra-constitutional means by overturning a free and fair election. Imagine watching that and coming away with this opinion. coming away that, first of all, this unconstitutional, illegal thing they're doing to Donald Trump. Maybe, just maybe, Curt Schilling should be among the conservatives who like to wave around their pocket constitutions and have some understanding of the words and the meaning of the words and the concepts laid out herein. There is nothing unconstitutional about what's being done to Donald Trump. Unless, of course, there's an amendment or an article in here, a section or a clause that I'm unaware of that prohibits the prosecution of a president who commits crimes against the republic. Crimes that, once again, this is just becoming a studio prop, that are outlined in great detail in this federal indictment, 37 counts against Donald Trump, many of which are violating the Espionage Act. I guess it's unconstitutional to hold criminals to account now, or at least criminals who attempt to overthrow the United States democracy, our country, and end democracy in this country. Eventually, he says, at some point, there was a man at Concord who decided he was going to pull the trigger. Now he's talking about what's commonly historically referred to as the shot heard round the world, the battles of Lexington and Concord. 1775, I think. The shots that sparked the American Revolution, the violent war against Britain to extricate ourselves from the crown. So maybe that could be viewed as a metaphor that we need a revolution. But then when he goes on to say, I feel we're getting back to a point where someone's going to have to pull the trigger. These aren't accidental words. Now, look, is Curt Schilling a dumb shit? To be sure. To be sure, he is rife with dumb fuckery. Absolutely. His pumpkin head is a hollow vessel. But he has a following. He has people who listen to him, who might be impassioned to the point that they will pull the trigger. They feel they are that somebody who's going to have to pull the trigger to start the revolution. I'm tired of all this talk. Being stopped for saying what he said doesn't make any sense because of how he started it. I'm tired of all the talk. I'm done with talking. We need someone to pull the trigger. This can't be explained away by just a throwaway line that, oh, you mean metaphorically pull the trigger, right? Wink, wink. If you're tired of the talk, what comes next? What is it that comes next, Curt? Because you're not going to be the one to pull the trigger, of course. Multi-millionaire, living in multi-million-dollar homes. You're not going to risk all you have while you pine on about the founding fathers sacrificing everything. Let me tell you, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, John Adams, these founding fathers that you talk about, they didn't die poor. They didn't sacrifice everything. An argument can be made that they risked everything, but they certainly didn't sacrifice everything. Just like you are not sacrificing anything other than reputation for being an anti-democratic troll. This will lead to violence. There will be some unwashed, low-information rube who watches Fox News on a loop who will take action on this, who will be this somebody to pull the trigger. Where's the FBI? Where are federal authorities to be knocking on doors here? Like, what are you doing? You cannot incite violence that is outside of the bounds of the protections from the Constitution that you have no knowledge of, the First Amendment. Vile and reprehensible characters in American conservative media, and they're platformed on a daily, on an hourly basis on Fox News. What do you think? I'd love to know. You can call. Leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me. Absolutely. I would welcome it. daily@dollemore.com. Over the weekend, I posted some videos about some people who are unhappy with me. It was a good time, but it also gives you a glimpse into, didn't mean to make a connection here, but it does give you a glimpse into the thought patterns of some of these people that he's appealing to, Curt Schilling. Follow me on social media. I'd love to see you there. I'm at Dollemore on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at Dollemore. And if you appreciate what I do, if you've already subscribed, thank you. If you've already followed me on social media, awesome. And you want to help support and produce my work, click the join button below. Become a channel member for as little as $1.99 a month, or you can click the super thanks button, or even better, go over to patreon.com/I-doubt-it podcast. I love you guys. I appreciate you very much. I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.